everyone, and welcome to the Clean Reads Podcast. I'm your host, Izzy, and in this episode, I'm going to be reviewing all the books that I've read so far in 2025. I almost said four. That was last year, but I'm going to be briefly reviewing all the books that I've read so far from January up till now in June. So I'm going to first start off with January, obviously, and then we will work our way up there. Sorry, I'm just terrible at talking right now. And this video also includes the DNFs and why I DNF'd a lot of books. So the first, in January, I read 4 books, and they pretty much surrounded fantasy. So the first book that I read was The Sea of Monsters, which is the Percy Jackson and the Olympians book 2. Now, this book was very interesting. It follows Percy in book 1 in Percy Jackson and the Olympians. In that first one, you get to go through the story on them introducing Percy Jackson and his life, being a son of Poseidon. And in the second book, I didn't like this book too much. I gave it around 2 to 3 stars, but it wasn't terrible, and I will continue this series. And eventually, one thing I don't like about reading the mythology is that they have it to where it's like every single time you read this Percy Jackson series book, and I know in that day and age when the Greeks were creating their gods and they were pretending that they existed, they had multiple gods for multiple things. Like Zeus was for lightning, Poseidon was for the ocean, and Hades was for hell, or Satan, which is probably a better name for him. And I don't like the part to where it's like all of the gods can have as many affairs as they like. It's not like hiding the fact that they do all these things multiple times. And one thing that reminds me of is back in the Garden of Eden. I know that in Adam and Eve, when Eve took the fruit from the knowledge of good and evil and ate of it, and Adam too, God guarded off the fruit that was supposed to be giving you eternal life, basically, in a sense, to where you would live forever and you never die. And he guarded that off so that they wouldn't have it. And obviously you can see why not. Because if we were in this book, essentially, we would never die. We would continue to be extremely sinful, have affair. It's very sad to see where we would go. But in a sense, it's a little bit eye-opening as well. Not my favorite, but I will try to be getting back into that series. Please encourage me on doing that because I do want to finish it. Anyway, the next book I read was actually a great pick. In contrast, was The Hobbit by J.R.R. Tolkien. And oh my goodness, everyone needs to read this series. It's so good. At night, sometimes I would go downstairs in our garage to work out on our treadmill. And I started reading The Hobbit. Oh my goodness, gravy. This was such a good book, and it felt so awesome to read. I don't highlight in my books, but the copy that I purchased myself was 50 cents, and it was so beat up. So I just who cares? I'm just gonna highlight it. And oh my goodness, it was such a good book. Took me right out of the walking. I would walk for a half an hour, 40 minutes. There were so many good quotes in there. I'm going to read you a little snippet, and they have this in the movie too, to where the dwarves are singing this. It's so good. Okay. Far over the misty mountains cold, the dungeons deep and caverns old, we must away ere break of day, to seek the pale enchanted gold. The dwarves of yore made mighty spells, while hammers fell like ringing bells. In places deep, where dark things sleep, in hollow halls, beneath the fells. For ancient kings and elvish lord, there are many a gleaming golden hoard. They shaped and wrought, and light they caught, to hide in gems on hilt of sword. On silver necklaces they strung the flowering stars, on crowns they hung the dragon fire in twisted wire. They mesh the light of moon and sun. So I'm just gonna stop right there. There's like a few more parts to that, but it's supposed to be a song, and I can't believe I'm gonna say this, but I actually sang that out loud while I was walking because it's such a beautiful rhythm, and they do a really good job of singing it in the movie. The next book that I read, which I was kind of sad about because I really wanted to like it, but I just was not a fan of, and I was also scared of fairy tale retellings. And the fairy tale retelling I chose was The Goose Girl by Shannon Hale. And this book was intriguing. I was like halfway. I want to go back to it. I can always do that. And I might go back to it actually this summer. Now that I'm thinking about it, makes me want to read it again. It just like, it didn't go well. And the final book of this month, at least that I'm aware of, is The Wild Robot by Peter Brown. It was okay. I liked, one thing I liked about it was that it felt more mature than the movie. See, with the movie, I felt like there was more warmth and less heaviness. One thing I really didn't like that I liked better in the movie was that Roz, the robot, she just did not have really a heart. Like in the movie, she had more of an empathy to her. She was more empathetic, and she cared about her son, and it was just sweet how that was. And I was like, oh, I'm excited to read it now. But when I read the book, it really felt detached. I'm like, have mixed feelings about this. Okay, so the next month is February. And in February, I decided, okay, I want to read a book that's something other than fantasy, because I love fantasy. But after reading 4 in a row of different worlds, I needed a break. So I picked actually a very popular book called The Naturals by Jennifer Lynn Barnes, and I was so excited to read it. I don't think I looked up on Plugged In, which is where I like look for most of, like, if not all, the books that I want to buy or read. But I think I looked them up on Amazon for some keywords, and I have actually an episode of how I find books and how I know that they're clean. I'll link it down below. So I was reading it, and there wasn't anything bad in it, but one thing that made me DNF'd it was that you get into the mind of the serial killer that is, and I would always say this as a caution to anybody who's like more sensitive to death, because it is a murder mystery. It really is a murder mystery, and they are a little bit crass, but getting in the mind of the serial killer was really jarring. You went into the mind of the serial killer was an ingenious idea. I just like never read anything like that before. The next evening, I DNF'd. I told my parents about it, and they encouraged me to DNF it, which I'm glad I did. Even though it was a few months ago, I feel like I'm a little bit more mature. But the next book that the Naturals, I do want to read it. The next book that I read was The Great Good Thing by Roderick Townley, and this one was a very interesting book. It was actually the first podcast episode that I made, and it feels like a while that I did that ago. But it's you hear the crows. The Great Good Thing was actually very interesting. I've never read The Crows Want to Be in the Podcast too. The Great Good Thing, I've never read like a story like this before, to where you are basically the character inside the book. But it ended up being fine. But it was a good book. It's also on my channel if you want to go look that up too. Also, I would like to have a reminder is please subscribe, comment your favorite book that I listed, and if there was any books that I DNF'd in here that you loved and you still want me to read, then comment your reasons why, and maybe I'll even read it and feature that book in an upcoming episode. Although I'm not a quick reader, so please keep that in mind. The next book that I read was Rival Darling by Alexander Moody. So I originally saw Alexander Moody before, and she is a clean romance writer with a butt, because she actually is crass and edgy. And you can, I actually have, why are they so loud today? Why are the crows so loud? I actually have another episode that features that I just came out with not too long ago. Oh, by the way, that was 4 stars. Very funny. A ton of cussing. Nothing bad in it, but except for, just look at my review on my channel and then I'll explain everything. The next book was Eragon, and I'm going to get a lot of hate on this and give it 1 star. The reason why is because it felt so violent. It felt like a lack of storyline, and I wasn't at all enjoying it. Anyway, I don't want to go into it and put hate on it. If you like it, that's great. Then I'm glad that you enjoyed it. I do want to read more dragon books. I did not like it, and I just didn't appreciate it, as most of you would probably. The next book that I read was The Eagle of the Ninth by Rosemary Sutcliffe. This one I gave 3 stars, and I had a total different thought process. I read the description on the back, but it gave me a total different, thought of oh, this is what's going to happen in the book. But really, it was what I expected, and I think I explained it in that same podcast episode. I had a full March wrap-up podcast episode if you would like to go watch that. And please continue to watch my videos. Everything helps if you subscribe or you like, even if it just helps my channel so much to get out there, and it really helps my channel grow. And thank you for doing that, and thank you for even listening right now. It means a lot to me. And the next book, sorry, that was my foot hitting the trash can. The next book is The Secret Garden by Frances Hodgson Burnett. Everyone needs to read this book. Just in one sentence, everyone needs to read this book, because it follows a wonderful girl in a beautiful character arc in her personality and in the lives of these people who are around her. You just need to read it. Even though it's a classic, it wasn't hard to read whatsoever. We're in March, by the way. The first book in March is The Green Ember by S.C. Smith. I give this one 4 stars, and it's by a Christian dad who wrote this for his kids, and it's such a good story. I was so surprised, because when I was younger, my mom tried to have me read it, and I was not interested. I was not a book person when I was younger. Now, I just read it recently, and I loved it. It was really good. I'm actually currently reading the second book right now. You should definitely go read it. It's definitely a book worthwhile. This one's going to be really quick. P.S. I Like You by Casey West. I listened to this in audiobook form on Libby, and I gave it 1 star. I DNF'd it at the 75% to the 80% mark. I was so close, but something happened in there that I just did not agree with. And even though Casey West does write clean romances, I don't like how she put them in a situation. Anyway, 1 star. I liked it until that point, so wouldn't really recommend that one. The next book that I read was Keep of the Lost Cities by Shannon Messenger. Oh my goodness. I actually, Okay, this was in the beginning of the book, and I actually cried, and I get emotional when there is a sweet parent relationship in there. Oh my goodness, it was so sweet, and I just broke. I broke, and I was like in the car with my mom, driving to go pick up my dad from his bike ride, and oh my goodness, I just started like silently tearing up, and my mom was like, "What's wrong?" And I was like, "I'm dying, Mom." And it was so great. I gave it 5 stars, and it was such an adventure. It was really cool, and I can't wait to read the third book. Okay, the next book that I read, and I actually DNF'd, was Five Little Pigs by Agatha Christie. I actually DNF'd that after 8 days with not even making a big dent. And that was the beginning of my reading slump. The next book I read was The Boy at War. And I actually got this book while my parents and I were in Hawaii, which was so cool. It was actually a surprisingly really good book. I gave it 3 stars because I enjoyed it. It wasn't 4-star quality, but I would say that it is clean. It has nothing bad in it, and it's super short. It's like 100 pages, and I was struggling reading at that point. A Boy at War by Harry Mazer. If you ever want to check that out, it's a really great book, and I do highly recommend it. For anyone, for like a boy, I think he would like it. It's adventurous. Oh, we are actually in May now, and the first book in May that I read was Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. And I gave this one 5 stars. There's really no more to say. 5 stars. That's it. The next book that I read was Sweet Heartbreak by Alexandra Moody. And I wanted to read another one because her book was really good. But I ended up DNFing it. Slightly permanent DNF, slightly soft DNF, because they're very crass about the affair between I think her name was Violet, and her parents' affair that ended up having her. So I did not like that part. There's a lot of drinking in there too, which I don't like it. The next one that I read that I DNF'd again was Chelsea High, and this one I permanently DNF'd. So Chelsea High by Jenny Oliver, and the reason why I DNF'd this one was because they said Jesus' name in vain so many times. I give my books a limit for how many times they say his name in vain. And they threw it out of the park. And I was like, I'm not even going to do that. Probably got 2 chapters in. Maybe just a chapter. There was a lot. And I did not care for it. And I didn't want that, like, okay, I'm okaying books that dishonor the Lord. The next book, I DNF'd again. We Were Liars by E. Lockhart. The reason why I DNF'd this one, and I am more likely strong DNF'd this one, was because it felt more dark. It felt more sneaky in, I don't know, it didn't say anything bad. There wasn't supposed to be anything bad either in there, but there's just something about it felt like there was going to be something really bad happening, like inappropriately bad. But it just felt twisted. That's the best word I can say as far as that book. Twisted. It did not feel like, if you're a godly girl, don't read this book. Just don't. The next book I read was The Great Divorce by C.S. Lewis, and this one, 5 stars. It takes a while to get used to it. I had to read 2 chapters to get into it, like to understand what was happening, and it was really good. I would forever reread this because it's very eye-opening if you want to know what C.S. Lewis thought of heaven. And it's a fictional story, so it's kind of cool in that sense, too. Okay, the last book of April was actually the second Keeper of the Lost Cities, Book 2, Exile by Shannon Messenger, and I gave that one 5 stars too. I actually liked this one more than the first, just because I liked the relationship between Keefe and Sophie, and I think she did a really good job with the next book. Now we are in May. Finally, we're in May. And The Maze Runner was the first book that I read. I took more of like a reading break. Oh wow, I read this one for a long time. So The Maze Runner by James Dashner, I read from 5/09/2025 to 5/28/2025. I gave it 3 stars. I didn't not like it. I think I was just in a slump. I will continue the series. I'm not a real fan of the violence, though. I'm not a person who enjoys violence. The next book that I read was, well, actually, I listened to this on Hoopla, and I do recommend listening to it as well. And I haven't read it, but I did listen to it, and I finished it within 1 day. And if you want to learn more about Jesus, it's an hour and a half long. It's an hour and a half long, and you will become more connected to him and why he is this way. Like why people are believing in him. The More Than a Carpenter is by Josh McDowell. And the one I listened to on Hoopla was narrated by his grandson, Sean McDowell. Anyway, 5 stars. Would definitely recommend anybody who's listening to read it. The next book that I read, which I was so looking forward to, was Grumpy Darling by Alexandra Moody. And I'm putting this one on a pause. The reason being is because Grumpy Darling had at a point, and I was 20% way through, a little bit disappointed. This book I listened to, well actually, we are now in June. We're finally in June, everyone. We're almost done. Thank you for listening for this long, by the way. Please like and subscribe. I'm literally begging you at this point. So this book that I listened to, and I love this book. Most of the books that I listen to are on Hoopla, and some of the books that I read, and I do recommend, even though I'm not sponsored by them, I really do recommend. It's a free app. And I listened to Cinderella's Dress by Shauna Slayton. I did, and I took a risk, but this book, okay, I'm not going to say anything. Just please wait for that episode to come out. It's going to be so much fun, and I cannot wait, because, nope, I'm not going to say anything. Okay, 5 stars. That's all you need to know. The second book that I read in this month was Matched by Ali Condi, and I gave that one 2 stars. I like, if they had a half system, I'd give it 2.5, but I leaned more to 2 than 3, just because I felt like there's a lot more lust in there, and I didn't exactly enjoy the love triangle. The next book I read after that one, I gave 5 stars, and I've actually read this, is The Faithful Spy, Dietrich Bonhoeffer in the Plot to Kill Hitler by John Hendricks. And this one is a graphic novel. And for the guys that are listening, and the girls, this is so good, and the guys would like reading this. Even though it is a graphic novel and it has a ton of pictures, it's the story of Bonhoeffer on how he kept faithful to the Lord while being convicted on the plot to kill Hitler. 5 stars. The next book that I listened to, it's the second book in that in Shauna Slayton's The Fairy Tale Inheritance series, is Cinderella's Shoes, and it's a follow-up on Cinderella's Dress. I gave that one 5 stars as well, and oh my goodness, I completely fell in love with everything that happened in that book. I won't give any clues or hints, but I did really enjoy it, and I think these are totally great books. The next book that I read was The Clue of the Black Keys, Nancy Drew Mysteries. So, by Carolyn Keene, and it was actually really good. I gave it 4 stars. I actually have been enjoying Nancy Drew books, and I know people say, oh, it's like an old thing, but is it? I like the innocence of the 1950s. It doesn't have anything in it, and just why aren't we reading more of these books? Was The Abolition of Man by C.S. Lewis. I gave this one 4 stars, and the reason I didn't give this one 5 was because I felt very confused. I was understanding a few things in there, but I just was not enjoying it like the other things that I've read, like the Screwtape Letters and The Great Divorce, although those are both fiction, and this was more of my this was the first literary thing I read from C.S. Lewis, but I probably will have to reread it again. But this one is Beauty's Rose, and oh my goodness, it's a retelling of Beauty and the Beast, and for all the book lovers out there, this is such a great book to listen to and to read, and oh my goodness gravy. It's taking me all the strength and the mental fortitude I have to not express how awesome of a series this is. And I cannot wait for that episode. I will do it soon. But I'm at the end. I will give you a little sneak peek on what I'm also reading right now. So the third book in the Fairy Tale Inheritance series is the third book that I'm listening to, is Snow White's Mirror. I'm listening to that right now, and I'm also reading book 2 of The Green Ember, and I'm really excited to continue the series. Please like and subscribe again. Thank you so much for listening, and please check out my channel. Thank you. Bye.